Welcome to live. Gonna give it a few minutes so I don't repeat myself too much. Gonna give it a few minutes for people to come in, then we'll get going. Hey, Carol. We're gonna give it a few minutes, see if any additional people come in. I thought I had pictures that I could use for today's live, but I don't. I guess we did not go to the Great Salt Lake on the trip. Well, hopefully I have information that you haven't heard before, so I have a few facts. I think I have 7 facts about it, and then more facts added on to that. So hopefully it'll be an interesting live. Well, there's more than that. That is part of it, but there's more than that. Wow, people are slow coming in. Okay, anyway. Oh, there's some people. Gonna go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. I am Nature Guy X46, and this is Nature Guy X46 Presents. Today, we are doing a habitat focus, and the goal for these habitat focuses is to highlight a different ecosystem every time we do one of these habitat focuses, and to help you understand a little bit about that ecosystem or that habitat, as well as the animals and plants that live there. Today, we're going to be learning about the Great Salt Lake as a habitat. But first, some facts about that lake. It is the 8th largest terminal lake in the world, and we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. The lake is home to salt-loving bacteria who can literally turn the water purplish to red, given the type of bacteria. I don't know, somebody that's watching the channel. You know what? I need to make sure. All messages. Hi, Infected Sky. Carol, if you don't see people chatting, you should see a thing that says something top chat. You want that to be all chats. The Morton Salt Company has one of their biggest plants near the lake. Yeah, that is Carol. The southern arm is 3 to 5 times saltier than the ocean, and the northern arm is 10 times saltier than the ocean. It is an important stopover for many birds, and it's important for birds of the world. Many birds from all across the region, the nation, and the hemisphere use this place as a stopover. The lake contributes to 5 to 8% of Utah's snowpack. And at one time, there was a much bigger lake that the Great Salt Lake is associated with. Lake Bonneville was the Great Salt Lake's predecessor. Me too. This lake existed around 12,000 years ago. It was really hard to believe, but it was 1,000 feet deep and covered a quarter of the state, as well as parts of Idaho and Nevada. And you can still see where the water was in some places. But let's talk more about the lake itself, and then we'll sort of transition into the other areas. So the lake itself is a terminal lake. Let me rephrase that because I was going everywhere. Hi, Francis Wobbles Dillon. Hopefully I pronounced that right. So the lake itself is a terminal lake. And what that means is that the lake has no natural inlets, outlets. Meaning that once water comes into the lake, there's no place for it to go but up. It is the largest natural lake west of the Mississippi and the largest saline lake in the Western Hemisphere. And it is surrounded by 75% of the state's wetlands. At its deepest point, it is 33 feet deep. Now, the lake is divided into two sections by a railroad causeway. And we're going to cover more about the animals and plants who depend on the lake a little bit later. Several rivers, streams, and groundwater keep the lake at a certain level. However, the lake has unfortunately been in decline. And so basically, it is shrinking. I need to grab... Oh, maybe not. Not so much. It's the bacteria that do it. And so some places are. It just depends on the bacteria. I like learning about nature too, Francis. Nope. No. So, basically, once these rivers dump their water into the lake, it's trapped. And so it carries with it all of those salts and whatever else they pick up along the way and deposit it into the lake. The lake is 75 miles long and 34 miles wide. As the water evaporates from the lake, it leaves behind the salt. And yes, you can float in the lake. One of the beaches has sand made of calcium carbonate. And there are 17 islands that are named on the lake. No, not river inlets, outlets. The rivers only flow into the lake. There is no water leaving the lake. They're outlets. I call them outlets because the water doesn't leave the lake. It only goes into it. I don't know if that's the actual... It's like an estuary. If you know how an estuary works, so... And this is sort of the same thing that we see in some other lakes. Okay, yeah. I am cleaning off my whiteboard because I haven't done that. I was rushed as usual because Saturdays are a work day, guys. I do a lot of work on Saturdays. Ow! Saturdays are busy for me. Okay, so what is this? Francis, please. No spamming, Carol. Not scamming. Okay, so this is... Here's the river going in, and here's the lake. So all of that water goes in, it stays, drops off whatever material it might be carrying, and drops it off. Now those islands that I talked about, there are some main islands: Antelope, Stansbury, Fremont, And some of those other islands that I talked about are actually part of a mountain range that are peaking up above the lake. I don't know how old they are. I would have to go and figure that out. So now let's talk about some of the plants and animals that are in the lake. That some of these animals actually live in the lake, some of them live around the lake, and some are visitors. Some of them, yeah, I don't know where they all get where their headwaters are. I think there's 2 or 3 that empty into the lake. So the first animal that we're going to talk about are the brine flies. And if you've ever been to the Great Salt Lake, these flies are literally everywhere. The minute you get up close to the water, you are literally swarmed. And they're maggots, feed on algae, bacteria, little microscopic algae that live in the water, detritus, and what we used to call blue-green algae. I am not going to try pronouncing it. Yes, that's what baby flies are called, maggots. Yeah, a lot of those, like I said, it's a mountain range. A very old mountain range, I would expect. So there's a special type of okay, so that word that I just put up onto the screen is what we used to call blue-green algae. And so they are down in the depths of the lake, feed the adults and feed on algae that is along the edge of the lake. Now there's also brine shrimp, and this is a type of animal that specializes in these type of lakes. And they also feed on the bacteria, the diatoms, the algae, and the cyanobacteria. Now, there are a multitude of birds that either, sea monkeys, that either live off the brine shrimp and the flies, or that just use the lake and the islands as a place. Yes, so do the maggots, the brine flies, babies. There are a multitude, and when I say multitude, I mean hundreds of birds that live in and around the Great Salt Lake. Not in it, but around it. 12 million birds have been counted at the lake. So there's 12 million birds representing 339 species that either use the Great Salt Lake or its wetlands. One of those islands that we talked about earlier is home to one of the largest colonies of American white pelicans in the United States. Notice I said one. They actually breed on the island. Important to note, there are no fish whatsoever in this lake. They would not survive. Yes, pelicans. And I've seen ibis, 4 or 5 different types of seagulls, depend on the lake. No, those, you're thinking of brown pelicans. White pelicans tend to be freshwater. In fact, there are pelicans you will find on the Mississippi up by Nauvoo, Illinois. Yeah, lots of them. Oops. I don't know what set that off. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's salty. It is so salty that you can lay in it in some areas and float. It's so salty. It's the southern arm. It is not, it is definitely not fresh water. It's not fresh water. It has fresh water dumped into it. But no, it's not fresh water. You could not drink this water. It is the southern arm, so there's 2 arms to this lake. The southern arm is 3 to 5 times saltier than the ocean, and the north arm is 10 times saltier than the ocean. So this is not a freshwater lake by any stretch of the imagination. That's why you have the brine shrimp and the brine flies and the brine shrimp. No. The Dead Sea is more salty than the Dead Sea has a higher salinity rate, and than the Great Lake. No, you're fine. Drinking salt water is bad for the kidneys. Eventually, I mean, you could drink it, but eventually it's going to hurt your body. The Dead Sea is has around 34% salinity. And the Great Salt Lake varies. It's around 5 to 27% salinity. So it is, yeah. fun fact, there is an aviary. Whoa. Sorry. I slipped. There is a bird zoo in Salt Lake City. And there's more than one type of flamingo. And they have the flamingo that lives up in the Andes. And one of them escaped. And for several years, it actually lived at the Great Salt Lake because they can feed on the stuff that's there. Just one. But technically, they live up in the Andes. They might be able to do it. Yep, a flamingo. I don't know if they could survive there the whole time. Where did I see it? I probably won't be able to find it. But yeah. Yeah. So it is a very cool place to visit. No, they did not. They did not get it back. They also did not say how old it was when it got away. So it might have got old and died of old age. Trying to find. They did not get it back. It escaped in 1987. He was named Pink Floyd. And he was last spotted in 2005. Now, there are two types of bacteria that live in the lake, and they are both extreme bacteria. They are what are called halophiles, or salt lovers. There's around 100 million to 100 million to 100 million bacteria per milliliter in the North Arm. So it's pretty crazy. Make sure we're good. That yeah. The largest aquatic animals to associate with the lake are the brine shrimp and the brine fly larvae. There are so many of these flies that, where is it? There are 370 million per mile of shoreline in the summer. Sorry, did I read that wrong? I might have. There are 370 million per mile of shoreline in the summer. Yep, Pink Floyd. I cannot read this. Brine fly larvae have been known to reach numbers of 370 million per mile of shoreline in the summer. So that's a lot of flies. And it is bad. They literally get in your nose, they get in your eyes. The good thing is, though, they don't bite. Yeah. They also, and you'll have to look this bird up because I don't have pictures of it, but up to 5 million eared grebes, about 50 to 99% of the species' entire population, have been known to visit the lake at one time. And you'll see all types of birds visiting this lake. There's no place that is entirely perfect. There are 4 species of grebes that use the lake: Clark's grebe, eared grebes, pied-billed grebes, western grebes. These are a diving bird. I think of them usually as geese, or not geese, but they look sort of like a duck, but the bill's a little bit more pointed. I will show you the eared grebe, since that's sort of the one we've been talking about. Maybe something is on my cord. That's what they look like. They look sort of like a duck. They're a diving bird. And excuse me. Oops. How is everybody doing tonight? Of course, we've already talked about the American pelicans, the white pelicans, double-crested cormorants, black-crowned night herons, cattle egrets, great blue heron, snowy egret, white-faced ibis, green-winged teal, American widgeon, golden eyes, buffleheads, blue-winged teal, Canadian goose, canvasbacks, cinnamon teal, common goldeneye, common merganser, gadwall, scap, luster scap, mallards, northern pintail, northern shoveler, red-breasted mergansers, redhead, ring-necked ducks, ruddy ducks, snow geese, tundra swans, wood duck, American coot, sandhill crane, soras, which is a type of rail, Virginia rail, American avocet, which is a type of sandpiper, bards, sandpiper, black-bellied plovers, black-necked stilt, common snipe, greater yellowlegs, killdeer, long-billed curlew, long-billed dewwitcher, least sandpiper. Oh yeah, yeah. I would imagine so. They are actually, so the wetlands that are there are brackish. They are brackish, meaning that some of them are like salt marshes. It says bullfrogs can be there. I guess. Okay, yeah. Well, it says wetlands. It says wetlands, so I don't know if that means that they are found there or if they're found just in wetlands in Utah in general. It would not be common for them to be there. That doesn't mean that you might not see them. It's just that they're usually found higher up in wetlands. And that's what you have to. It is very much a that is one of the islands. And this is the island that has the white pelicans. That's Gunyan. I think it's pronounced Gunson Island. One of, whoops. Those are gulls at the lake on one of the islands. It would be really hard to not picture the so yeah. That basically wraps up the live. I do want to post next week for everybody. I'm going to make it a point to try to get all of the lives scheduled. I may not be able to, based on my ability to come up with stuff. So this week, or next week, we have take a closer look at dragonflies, be safe around elk, and why we don't have more exotic fruits. I can't figure out where everybody is. And that is at 7 p.m. That one's going to be, that's a Friday. At 7 p.m. And this one, the last one is, whoops. Trying to think if there's anything else. So those are the lives coming up. I need to check something. We are at 889 subscribers. Perhaps. Wow, I thought. I'm sitting here replying. Okay. I think I'm caught up on stuff. So let me just do my closing bit. Remember, this is Nature Guy X46. We've just learned about the Great Salt Lake as a habitat. Next week, we are going to be looking at dragonflies, being safe around elk, not European elk, but North American elk, and why we don't have more exotic fruits in some of our grocery stores. We're going to find out. And I don't even know if I'm going to do that one on the 14th. I might switch it up for something else. We'll see. Just because I don't know how much information I'm going to be able to dig into it. It might make a better short. So we'll see on Saturdays. See everybody later. Bye-bye. Wait, I just had people come in. I want to make sure this is not regulars. I can't get over. Okay. Bye, everybody.